Welcome to Power Women of the Trades podcast. This show is all about breaking barriers and changing the game. Our guests will feature some of today's most successful female entrepreneurs and other advocates of our industry as well. Because if there's one thing we know for sure, female-led entrepreneurship drives change on multiple levels. We want to empower women in the trade industry like you so you can maximize your potential, stay balanced, achieve long-term success, and claim ownership over your life. Let's get started.
So this package, when we first did like our first merch stuff, this is like a long time.
Was supposed to make it to Canada,
but we didn't know. Kaylee didn't know how to ship to Canada. She kept asking me. I was like, Kaylee, I don't know.
UPS, Pure Later, DHL.
She tried, and it kept like kicking it back. And so I was like, you know what? We'll see them at some point.
What did you put in the box? Is there something else in there?
All the things. I think she even asked them once, or I asked them. I was like, just whatever.
Okay.
Anyway, so you can open your gift.
All right.
I actually don't know what's in this box. I know we did it.
She wanted to open it
like
before we got going. I'm like, no, you can't open it. So.
Yeah, reveal.
Is this one I ordered the tiny one?
All right.
The trucker hats.
There you go.
Nice.
The good ones.
What else?
Stickers.
Where's their water bottles?
There wasn't water bottles. Whenever we did
this was the original merch.
This was the original.
I think that was the original one.
Yeah, like this was like February.
It's like on
February
brand
shipping.
for you guys too.
Absolutely.
It is. Yeah, and it was a perfect match with you guys.
When you're like, we're launching a podcast, it was black and pink. I was we're in.
Okay,
it's on
we got it.
Yeah.
On brand.
No,
okay.
But for us, it was all about supporting women in the trades. Like, I don't know. Thad and I had a conversation. We were texting back and forth while you were doing your sales pitch.
Oh, yeah.
And I was just
Me
like,
and Leslie do that too.
I truly don't care. Like, this is about more than dollars. This is about more than what are we going to get back in return? It was truly about just supporting the message that y'all are putting out. So
it's been incredible for us to like see the message, because at first Leslie and I weren't sure, and there's been some times that it's been like daunting, and you probably go through it too, of like, oh, we're supposed to record today, or oh, we got this, like y'all forgot to record last week.
Schedule? Like, how do you have it structured?
Every Wednesday.
Live.
So like usually Wednesday afternoons.
But you have a big library built up, right?
No, we go live.
They don't ever have a library. They're just live.
They had 6 months of content.
So that's
Tersh.
Maybe Tersh. But so
and
like,
Josh.
so we have all the snippets and the cut up material from it. So like, you record an hour podcast, you can have like hundreds of different snippets that you could potentially spin out and put on different platforms, and different platforms require different nuanced material. Our team handles that. That's not my domain. They post on TikTok. I asked the other day, I'm like, how many followers do we have on TikTok? And they're like, well, you don't have it. I'm like, no, it's not my phone. So we go live every Wednesday, usually around 2 p.m. Mountain. We'll push it one way or the other. At first, we were really stringent on that time. Like, you either make it or you don't. And then there's some people that just couldn't. And somebody's like, yeah, you know what? You spread it an hour like one way or the other, or 2 hours one way or the other. It's not going to make or break it. And because where are your views coming from? Are they coming during the live? Well, no, it's usually after the fact. And so we don't have the database of where we drip those out. We go live and we do it. And so last week is a good example where we forgot to schedule a guest.
Oh, yeah.
And we're like, well, shit, we're kind of up against the clock here. And luckily we had somebody, like, I literally called him and had a conversation like 10 in the morning. I'm like, so what are you doing at 2 o'clock today? Because now we try to have conversations with people that we don't know before we bring them on the podcast. Yeah. Because we've had a couple train wrecks.
Have you ever been in a live one and you're like, we can't continue with this person? It's just not going well.
Yeah, once. We won't put names on there.
I think I know the name.
Yeah,
I do.
There may be a clip on the roadcaster of them.
It's ocean related, and let's just leave it at that. So you can read between the lines, figure it out from there. Absolute train wreck of an episode, but hey, you know what? Good information, I'm sure, at parts of that. And so after that, we're like, okay, we need to have conversations with people beforehand. So we try to do that, right?
Ocean related.
Yeah. Oh, we'll get to that.
We're gonna have to. It's after camera conversation.
Okay, Evan's gonna message me.
Okay, yeah, Evan's about to message her. So we have to. We did.
So you had to cut it. You had to cut it.
No, we let it run.
We let it run. So he was mentioning like, yeah, and then I didn't see the Facebook messages at the time because he was messaging me on Facebook because he doesn't want to put it in the private chat on StreamYard. because we use StreamYard and everybody sees the private chat, and so now we're pretty good at paying attention to our messenger. He's like, end it, and then I saw it, and I was like, oh shit.
So this was during you were messaging him like, we need to stop. Like it was so bad that
wrap it up.
How long ago was this?
Oh, years ago.
Yeah. So like it still exists. We just don't do anything with the content.
But we had to figure out for us too, because we were scared to just like go live.
I get hot just thinking about that. Did you start getting hot and were you like, oh my God, what am I gonna do? Were you carrying the show, or what? Like, when you realized it was going bad, what did you do? Did you shut down?
Poured another drink.
Or were you just like, well, it was like a dumpster fire and you were just watching it?
The funniest part, I think, was like trying to reel them back in constantly, and they just kept drifting farther and farther away.
So more than this conversation?
Absolutely.
I asked the same question 5 different times in a different way to try to get the answer, because it was a really impactful question and never got an answer.
Well,
was there external forces outside causing
alcohol?
That? Okay.
But for us though, we do pre-interview.
I can totally relate to that.
The meet and greets, and we've had a meet and greet that we were like, this is not a fit.
We never had a meet and greet.
Because we
don't need a meet and greet with you.
We do to people we don't know.
But if we don't know you, because we have gotten
we do know.
so many. That was interesting for us too. Is like how many people were just like, hey, can we be on your podcast? Which makes sense. Like,
I don't know.
Go ahead and ask to be on the podcast. I had never asked. I just had someone ask me. I kind of thought it was like one of those things you had to be asked to do. And I didn't realize people actually are like, and then our producer sometimes is like, we got to get this person on the podcast because they've called me or texted me or emailed me every day or whatever. But sometimes we're just like, sorry, not a good fit, because we wanted to make sure we were able to stay true to ourselves. We're not going to sell our soul. We don't care. And that's even the same with our sponsors. Like, and we told you guys that, like, we're never going to change our voice because someone didn't like it.
Cassie before has been like, people, I'm not going to say just Cassie, that have wanted to give us money, and we're like,
no. Yep. Sorry, thank you. Thanks for stopping by.
But it's also your brand too, right? You have to respect that, and what you're going to put out in the message. If they see sponsor buy and it's a company that you don't want to be associated with,
it's hard,
right? I mean, what do you?
Because it's like a business trade-off, for us, right? But it's also personal because we're not selling anything,
right?
But it's also like, well, yeah, we're probably pretty like we could probably be a little less invested on some of that stuff, but
we just we didn't want to.
So our sponsorship fees are going to go down.
Yours are going up.
No, I think that we just didn't want to sell our soul. There was a lot of things that we had to learn. Like, number one, we knew for sure that we were never going to go Facebook Live. Right. Like, while we know that
y'all
are
some straight thugs for that.
Though it cracks
it's
me
hilarious,
up.
Right? Did we end the broadcast in the middle with yours, or was it yours?
10 times. No, we were having connection issues.
But literally,
I think he ended the broadcast by accident.
His kept freezing. But then, or if just the internet's not working for y'all, and you can start seeing it in your faces, like one of you is about to blow a freaking gasket, which would be me, right? Like, literally,
I don't want the pressure of having to think on my feet like that.
I want to be able. There's definitely times that we'll be podcasting and we'll be like, Rita. So when she's listening, she knows to get this out of this. Like, please remove this from the podcast.
Or when someone talks shit about somebody else and we're like, Rita, you need to take that out so it doesn't air later. We've had a couple like that. Or a brand that they don't like,
brand or something.
Yeah.
Right.
But yeah, definitely we knew we weren't going to do. Yeah, write that down. We're going to talk about it later.
Talk about this, but tell me.
Yeah, so I was thankful that we called it our podcast tour, because we had gone on several podcasts before we started doing our own.
Oh, yeah.
And we were able to kind of learn of what would work for us and what wouldn't work for us, and how we'd shape to be different, because we didn't want to be the same as everybody.
The very first one this is so crazy when you think about it, was at AHR. And it was a TikTok live.
LOL.
And I said the stupidest things I've ever said in my life. And the very first one.
TikTok live, the lady was like, she was so sweet, but she was like, I have a really big TikTok following.
And she does. I follow her.
We go live, and Leslie was I love TikTok.
I think her name. It's about going into the trades and choosing that as a career. And I don't think she's a recruiter. She just makes connections, and
I feel really bad that I can't remember her name because we know who she is.
She's
but
great.
Long story short,
And I was like,
so funny.
let's go live. What could possibly go wrong here? Like, if we're gonna do a podcast, why not start it in front of thousands of people we've never met
that are literally going to be like giving us feedback and opinions that we're not ready for.
Yeah.
And then we were like, HR, that was miserable. Love it. We were so thankful to be there. We'll be back. But we had scheduled because we had gotten in late, so we didn't have any booth time, so we had to go and we were running
pop-up shop.
Like we had suitcases. Remember, we were like running Kayla's
podcast.
I remember watching y'all go everywhere. I was like, oh god.
And then HR comes up to us at one point and they're like, you're actually not allowed to set up like this. And we're like, okay, well, how do you want us to do it? Because we didn't have booth
And I
space.
remember thinking, I hope it's not always this way.
Yeah, and we were like, but man, we've come a long ways though.
That was fun.
It's crazy when you think back and like, you know, with ours even too, like we started going live. It literally started as Evan and I talking on Wednesdays, drinking whiskey about the business and where we're at and our coaching and what we're learning and that. And we're like, oh, yeah, let's bring on a guest. And like, okay, let's bring on an HVAC contractor. Okay, maybe we should probably start a podcast with this.
You were already doing it,
we're
really.
already doing it, right? It was just, it would start us an honest, transparent conversation of us just drinking whiskey. But when you look back at like the growth, it's like a business, right? You're talking about seasons of a business.
Yeah.
Same thing. If you look at like day one, you said you're, you know, $10, $11 million now. Like, well, okay, do you remember the day you started, right? No, you guys, do you remember the day you started? Now you've just changed drastically. You've grown, and you look back, you're like, not the same.
Not the same. And the things that bothered you then are different. Those things may not bother you anymore. And there's a whole different set of things you didn't even know about that you should worry about.
Well, and then I think
ignorance is bliss.
The feedback started helping.
For me, it was.
The feedback started helping us. We had to not take it so.
Yeah, I struggle with the feedback.
Sometimes it's been very good, but then some.
Because we focus on the people, like it's like human nature that. Well, who said it earlier? Closing the loop in your brain. Were you saying that, or was that somebody else? We want to close the loop in our brain on things to process it out and move on. So when we get negative feedback about the podcast, it's just like in our business, it's still your baby and you take it personally. It's a different set of, it's a different platform, but it can still definitely
trigger emotions and
hurt the same. And I struggle with that a lot. Like I think Cassie's better at it than me in that, like putting that in the right place and where it belongs, because I'll get wrapped up in it. And
and it's weird too how it comes, because it'll be like men randomly of like, women don't need a place in the trades, and then or it'll be women that are like, what the hell are y'all doing? Or women mad because we've had too many office people.
You know what I always wonder? I always wonder if
like,
the feedback that we get is similar to like the feedback that our peers, like you guys if y'all get the same type of feedback in a different way. I've just never asked that question. You know,
I'm sure that there's someone trashing y'all somewhere. You know what I mean?
Sure.
And do they message you?
I don't see it.
We have to
often,
like.
I get messages. Like I get messages about it, and I'm like, is this what everyone else is dealing with?
No, I think that ours was disruptive.
Disappointing to some.
We were disruptive to the podcast as far community, as far as promoting women in the trades. Like I think it was just that's just disruptive in itself.
But it wasn't even.
It's weird because the feedback has been 95% amazing, but you wear the ones that are just like, and then when you think about the words that are said to you, you're just like, you're such an uneducated asshole. Right? Like, you know, like what
I'm not even talking about the trolls on like TikTok. I mean, we get trolled on there, but I think about it from the other women.
Yeah, I think that's the hardest. That's the most disappointing.
Right.
Is that
I don't even like to talk about it because I feel like even
sad.
giving it live makes it. It's like
it makes me sad that we're
I'll probably edit this out.
Really pushing.
But like,
promote women,
I'll tell Rita to edit this part out. I'll just like tell you, you know, all of our negativity has come from women. And all the men are the first ones to like, you guys, like you look at our sponsor. I mean, everyone was like, oh yeah, we want to do that. Like there was no question.
But maybe
there was no like.
But maybe we shouldn't edit it out.
No,
because I think we need to recognize.
I don't think you should, because this is real, raw, and authentic, right?
Yeah.
You look at our conversation with Stacey before we even came here, right? Stacey and Mike, and like we went deep on this topic, right? Phenomenal. Even Mike said, even Mike's words is if men could put their ego aside and realize that women can run a better business than men, we would have better, stronger trades.
I don't think it's about running.
I'm paraphrasing,
right,
by the way,
but
right?
Yes, yeah, but like, it's not that we run it better. It's that what we bring to the table is important to the wholeness of a successful business.
And it's important.
Like Brent, I could not do what he's doing, and he is the most impactful person in our business. But I know what I have brought to the table, and that's why it works, because
he can't do what you do.
Right.
Yes.
And it's not that I'm better than him. I bring a completely different perspective, and I have a different energy that I can bring to the like things that drive us, you know? And I love Mike and Stacy. Like, I hope I get to see them later. But I just love Stacy so much. You know, we had her.
She's so real. She's so real.
We have a very raw, real text thread, and I don't think I could compare it to anyone else's, and I just love her so much.
We're the tornadoes. Tito's and tornadoes, I think is what it's called. I think, though, we're not trying to replace men. No. We're just trying to show what women can do. And I think what she's saying is, like, it's just disappointing to see the feedback from women when we're just like, we're trying to help you too. You know, we're not saying, hey, give us a pat on the back and look at what we're doing. We're trying to show, like, girl, look what you're doing. You know what I mean? Like, look what you're doing. It's always
been about showcasing
them. Not us. Like, it has nothing to do with us. Like, let's showcase what these other people are doing, and understanding the value of what they do, whether they're in the field or in the office, because that seems to be the fun thing to hate on right now. Is there are a lot of women that are in the field, and we've talked to a lot of them, and they're not interested in podcasting, and that's fine, you know. Right. But because we can't get all of them to hard commit, we're not showing the power of all sides, and it's like, we've got some. Right. You know, we can't get everyone to commit, and that's fine too, because not everyone wants to do this. Not everyone is built to have a conversation and as openly. That maybe sometimes that's why they chose the field, you know, and we appreciate both sides, but just the appreciation, I don't know, it's rough. But ultimately, I think, reflecting back, it's been a interesting.
God, it's like we've lived 10 months since
10 months.
So reflecting back on that, on the negative comments that come in, one of the things that I always teach my kids is, like, any negative comments that come from other people is often a reflection of whatever they're insecure about in themselves. So not knowing what it is that people are saying to you, what void could you fill within the industry to meet them at their needs and what it is that they need to hear?
Well, since I'm working on myself, I'd like to tackle this. I am in, like, a healing stage, and I realized how people feel about me and my podcast has nothing to do with me, and it's not my job to make sure anyone feels okay about what I'm doing or what I'm spending my time and money on. When we were going through that criticism, it's weird how things happen in waves, because, like, it's like 3 things happened in one day right before we were about to record, because we record once a month. Right. And I come in a frenzy. I'm getting these messages, and then something, thankfully on social media, it was like, you never receive criticism from someone doing more than you. And I find that immediately popped in my head. It's like I'm just living, right? I don't think I'm an expert on anything. I'm always surprised anyone wants to hear anything I have to say. You know, like when you guys ask me on, you know, rarely are you guys going to hear me talk about KPIs. I can. I literally live it all day long. I have the best people working in and on my business, and I live it. But that's not my heart. So it's like, anytime anyone wants to hear anything from me, I'm always surprised. I'm always honored. But one thing when we started this is, like, I'm not going to get on this and talk about KPIs, and you can listen to any show and do that. I want it to be about what real life stuff, right? And I was literally having, like, that day was a really hard day, and it could have been a lot of different things. And Brent was like, Leslie, he said, you know, anytime you're doing something, you're opening yourself up for people to say things about you. And I was like, I know that. So what's happened to me today that I can't process through that? You know, it was just timing, and it was whatever, because for us, it's like, we're literally doing this just for representation in the market. and we get the most amazing messages. I could show you. So why am I focusing on this one thing that happened? It just all happened at once.
I feel like what the reason why is it's like if we get a 1-star
review. Well, I'm a people pleaser.
Well, you are.
I want people to like me.
But if we get like a 1-star review at Quality, previously when we had a 1-star review at Quality, I was ready to burn this down. Like, what's going on? What, whatever. Now it's just like, we tried really hard. We're going to try to fix it. If we can't fix it, we tried. But, we've got 2,000 5-star reviews somewhere else.
Yeah.
It sucks. We could have done better. We didn't. So now, but with the podcast being a new business, it's in the infancy. And so those 1-star reviews, or what, it wasn't even a review, it was a private message.
A comment. Yeah.
It's like, they hurt more. They hurt more because it's just like, but we're trying so hard and we don't even make any money.
Right.
It's like
one no shit wipes out 1,000 attaboys. Like I said that earlier. My dad preached that to me before. It's like that one negative comment, that one thing sometimes can take all the wind out of your sails.
Yes.
And I know that I'm super.
And it's so stupid because logically we talk about this all the time. We're all into mindset. We hear it all day long. We're all task oriented, high achievers. We're all in the same groups, following the same type of like self-help motivating things. And I'm like, Leslie, you're better than this. You know this does not matter. And it did that day. And then honestly, the next day I was like, fuck it. Honestly, because I'm like, nobody gets to have a say or pour into me that has nothing to do with me. They don't pay the studio fee. They don't pay our producer. They don't spend their time, energy, and money doing anything about this.
Travel.
This is work for us. Work, and it's monetarily, we don't make anything. So it's like literally us just doing it to create a small space, right? And so finally I got mad and I'm like, I would just never, I think for me, I want to make sense of everything. And I'm like, I would never do that to another female.
Right.
Well,
I would never do it.
Even.
You don't want to to another person. And then it's funny too because I have a pretty loud opinion sometimes.
No.
What? And so then I immediately start reflecting of like, when have I done this to someone else and blah, 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 or how this strong opinion of some, and I try to reflect through that. And Leslie all the time.
When that happened, you did?
Well, I think about it because I've tried to grow. I'm really, truly trying to grow. I don't want.
You are growing.
I never want to like hurt someone.
Right.
I'm a defender. I'm a protector. And my biggest thing is when I get in these groups and start running my mouth, Texas Medley was like, literally, Cassie's always in someone's ass. And I'm like, the thing is that it comes from a place of like trauma, not for me, but I watched a couple of my friends that are no longer in the space literally bankrupt by trusting and following beliefs of people in these groups.
Right.
And so it literally chaps my ass. It like fires me up when I see people approaching that or trying to prey on to people, that I go into my mama bear defender mode, that I will stand here and block you and hit me, punch me, but you're not taking these people down. And sometimes Leslie has to be like, delete it now. This isn't your battle. Yeah. Does this serve you? What do you always tell me? Is this fulfilling? Is this about my kingdom? Is this building your kingdom? And I'm like, okay, so I'm growing, but then I have to remember too that while sometimes, yes, this hurts or it's frustrating, there's sometimes probably been a spot where I've hurt someone in a way that I thought I was protecting someone else, but I hurt that person. And I never truly am after
That's good.
someone to hurt them. My whole goal is to protect this one. But like I always say that I'm not a keyboard warrior. Like, I'm going to tell you that you're a dumbass on the keyboard and to your face. Like, I don't have any issue with that. Like, what you see is what you get with me. You never have to question where you stand with me. But sometimes that's probably a fault,
Yes, and whatever you read on the keyboard or on your screen is filtered through your own interpretation of what it is that you're reading.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think that was literally when you said what your question said and she said, that's not what it said. And then we're going back and forth and she read it and she was like, oh my gosh, that's what it said. I literally was like, how many times have I said this? Because I've probably damaged my own personal brand or my own personal or our company brand or the podcast brand by having a sharp opinion about something in the moment thinking I'm protecting someone, but in turn unintentionally hurting someone else. There's a few people that I will maybe intentionally hurt you with my words because you
deserve it.
You hurt my
You're
friends.
an asshat.
You hurt my friends. Or, most of those people are out of the space, but you know what I mean? And so, but if we're not mindful and we're not ready to learn, like that's me, Cassie Pound, telling you that I have said things that have hurt someone before and I didn't mean to.
But how many times do we say this within our own organizations, right? And like this was one of the complaints that we got back, and that feedback, coming back full circle to that, was
that specific to him or did you get your own?
He had his own.
What was yours?
I don't even remember. What was mine?
I bet you remember. What was
yours?
it?
Didn't make it that much of an impact.
He got the direct feedback, and then I got the filtered feedback from him. So
I try to remember now off the top of my head.
some of it being an ass hat. Anyways, well, you're thinking of that.
Yeah.
But
like, can I get my notebook? Because it's written in there.
yeah. But how many times do we message a team saying, hey, can you just do this?
Yeah.
And they're like, oh my God, is Leslie mad at me right now?
I think about that. I do that with Andrea, who's
Right.
operations, but I have knew her in my previous life, and I kind of brought her with me, and I use no punctuation,
Right.
and I say K, and like I never thought anything about.
Was it Eric or who was it? That
Yeah,
posted that?
Eric. I was messaging him, and I said K, and he goes, "Is that K like you're mad at me, or K that?" And I'm like, "Is there?"
It was so
why
funny
would
too.
you think I was mad at you? It was
Right.
a generational thing. I'm a lot older than him.
I said
Acknowledgement,
K.
thumbs up. Right?
Yeah, I was like, I had no idea, and that was such a controversial question, and
Yeah.
a lot of people feel that way. I would have never have guessed it.
No.
Yeah.
I try to, because like we use Teams for our company a lot,
Right.
and you can't understand context in a message, and sometimes people will be like, or people have been like, "Was that about me?" And I'm like, "No, it was no, but I can't have a meeting and be like, call. I need
No,
to
it
address this
wasn't.
all.
Yes, it was.
Yes, it was. Yeah.
I need to address everyone as a learning moment, but it's
Right.
not worth the whole meeting for. But also, this has nothing to do with you. But if now you think it does, maybe it does. But
Right.
or then I'll come back with, because as a woman with a strong mind and soul, or whatever I got here, sometimes I can come off too abrasively,
Right.
and so I have to come back and put some sugar on it with. Just to reiterate, I love you all very deep, whatever,
Well,
you know.
that's my
Well, and that's-
favorite. My favorite is when they come back and they say, like, was that about me? It's like, well, what about that makes
Could've
it
been.
feel like it's about you?
Right.
Yeah, 'cause
Or
that
when
was-
someone says, "Hey, I need to talk to you," and then you're like, "Good, because I needed to talk to you too."
Right.
Turn it back on.
And then you get the stories in your brain, right? But so to
Yeah,
go back to
whole
his
story.
feedback, I remember it was because
Oh.
he even said it, right? And so like, because you mentioned talking about Teams, like we use Google Chat or Google Spaces because fuck Slack because they can't send GIFs from their desktop. You can do it from your phone, but anyways.
What do you mean send gifts?
So like in Slack, so like GIFs, like
We have our
the-
whole team on Slack.
yeah, so you can send like that. You can pop up and it's just like a random thing. You can actually search through your keyboard on desktop to send GIFs. And if there's a way, hey man, somebody can correct me, but you can do it on your
I
phone,
gotcha.
right? Because on
Okay.
your phone you have like the GIF,
Yeah.
and you hit on that and you can search your GIFs on your phone. You can send that in Slack on your mobile, but the GIFs aren't nearly as good on desktop. And,
Seems like a logical reason
right?
to use it.
99% of our team's conversation is on desktop.
Yeah.
We're
Yeah,
mobile
yeah.
because we're all over the place, right?
And a lot of the communication is through gifts.
Yeah, a
Yeah.
lot of we have
great.
pretty
I love
big
it.
GIFs.
so
That's
much fun.
hilarious.
We are too.
And but we actually had an advent of something called Kumo Space, which is actually a virtual office. It's actually
I saw that.
Yeah, so it's actually super cool. By the way, I can get you 10% off anybody's listening later on.
Okay, so what
message
is
me.
the purpose?
So,
It's because y'all are all in different places, so that's how you
so
have
our
it.
team is all over the world. We're going to hire from the best. I don't really care what country you live in.
Yeah.
Okay, maybe I do, but
So how many employees do you have?
15, 16, 16.
And they're all over?
They're all over. So Canada, like all over.
Canada, US.
Canada,
So he hurt
US,
someone's
like,
feelings in the Kumo.
No, so this is Evan's thing is so like Kumo Space is great because like it's like an office. So I've been working remote since 2014, like off and on since like 2005. So I've been doing it a long time, but 2014 solely remote. This is probably the closest thing that I've ever found to an in-person office experience because it's like it's like The Sims
Mm-hmm.
is really
This
the best way
is
to
so
describe
cool.
it.
It's really
right,
fun.
but it's super fun. And so like you come in, it's like even shit was that
It's like the
Saturday night,
metaverse?
right? Saturday night.
Is that
no,
what it's
but
like?
except for no goggles. It's
Did
like
the
it's like
metaverse not
2D
take
flattened
off?
on your computer. And so like Saturday night, I'm like, okay, well our rule is when you're working, you're in Kumo space. When you're not, you're not. It's like similar to an office.
And it's always on your screen?
It's always on your screen. So I bought a new computer so I could have 3 monitors, so I could
Okay.
have it always on my screen.
Okay.
But I came in on Saturday. Evan happened to be also working on late Saturday night, and so we ended up having a conversation about a few different things. But you can pop into somebody's office
Over some whiskeys.
Over some whiskeys. So you can pop into somebody's office
Plural.
if their door's open, or you go knock on their door, or what have you. You pop up in a video conversation. You can have that. So it's actually super fascinating because we've reduced our Google Chat messages or Slack for whoever for those. It's equivalent to Slack by way of having now in-person, face-to-face meetings.
This is what I'm going to do with
world,
Brent.
right?
I'm going to be like,
It's
You
so
need to
cool.
knock on my Kumo
It's so
door.
cool, but
Is
so
it
here's
Kumo?
Yeah.
Kumo space, right? But so here's the problem that a lot of people have in a digital world is like, especially in remote offices. Well, you send out the message and say, "Hey, are you free? We need to chat about something, or can we meet about this topic?" Yeah, you don't hear back for 45 minutes because they're busy doing head down, focused on their work. 45 minutes goes by. Well, shit, you're on to something else. Now you're busy. And now all of a sudden it's a day or two before we have a conversation about it. Where in this case, you open up Kumo Space. You see that their door is open. You just pop in their office and say, hey. Or you can knock on their door if their door is closed. You can open it. You don't have to have your camera on the entire time. Like I know myself and Evan and our ops director of operations tend to work with our camera on because now it's like with our door open. So people can say, okay, they're here, they're working. I can pop in and have a conversation. If you're focusing, then your camera's off.
So what's funny about this is interesting to me.
This is like a game.
Yeah.
It's like y'all are in a video game.
We've gamified the office experience for remote workers.
Can we get offices so we can see what this is like?
Yeah.
I can pull up my, after we're done, I'll pull up my laptop, I'll log in, I'll show you.
And we can get our own offices.
Yeah, you can come in. Sure.
When COVID first happened, we are all about like actively working together in teams, and we have like short desks and whatever, and we collaborate
I have
a lot.
6 minutes just keeping everyone updated.
And then we collaborate a lot. So when we had to go to the house because of COVID or quarantine, whatever, we struggled because we wanted to work together. So we sat on Zoom all day long together.
Yeah.
And some people were like, you're micromanaging people because they are whatever. And I'm like, literally, they're allowed to go pee. They're on mute. They're just whatever. But we're just on Zoom.
Right.
Because
They're
if
like
someone
folding
needed
towels in the
something,
background.
we had this girl when we went to quarantine that couldn't work from her home. So she was the only one that stayed in the office. But she had been with us for 4 days. And so literally all of her training was through Zoom, answering the phones. And she would put them on mute, unmute herself, and we would be like telling her what to say.
Wow.
But
That'd be
hindsight,
miserable.
it was like everyone enjoyed it because they didn't feel alone. They didn't because they like working together.
Right. Well, it's human connection, right? And this is what this has done. So they actually, Kumo Space was born out of COVID. They started in like early 2020. It's like, well, there's got to be a better way. It's like a lot of places will say, okay, hybrid models, for example. Now they say, okay, well, let's rebuild our office. It's a blank slate, or you can use their templates, and we just use the template.
So you can make it look however you want.
You can make it look however you want. You can design it however you want. You can have floors. You can have everything.
So
and
when you're a massive
super
company,
sick, right?
you want different floors for different departments. You can build that.
So a lot of companies will do that, and they say, okay, great. Well, if you're hybrid, well, okay, you still have your desk. It still looks the same. Now, anybody who's in the office or who's hybrid can also do the same thing. When you're working, you're in Kumo Space. When you're not, you're not. And so it really builds the water cooler talk that you miss a lot of in a virtual world when you just on your keyboard, you don't see the human interaction. It actually helps. Like, we've prided ourselves on purpose media having a phenomenal culture, because I've worked for companies that have a great culture, and I've worked for companies that have a shit culture, and I don't want to work for the companies that have a shit culture. In fact,
the passenger elevator
industry. So if they had a great culture, I'd probably still be in there, and we wouldn't be having this conversation today.
Right.
But the culture was so reverse. Like, talk about people, product, price. They were the reverse. It was price, product, people. The boss was even said when he's like, well, what would the shareholders think about that? I'm like, I don't give a fuck what the shareholders think. Like, this is something that could be good for people. He's like, no. I'm like, okay, right, bye. And now, here we are starting our company. But it just builds that connection when you have those sorts of neat things like that, especially in a technological driven world.
And even
how
within
do you show your mat on Kumo?
How do you show you're what?
You're mad. Like if you're mad at one of your coworkers, like what do you do to kind of mess with them?
You nudge them 74 times.
Yeah, so they have there's a couple workers, so there's a nudge button and like it dings up on a chime.
Yeah.
And so they've been trying to, I think what it was like, I don't think anybody's quite got to 1,000 nudges. It was like 997 before they recognized and like opened up and stopped the nudging, right? So it's just, there's some fun stuff that you can do, but a big part of our culture is gift driven. So we still have our Google Spaces and our Google Chat, which is gift driven, and it's hilarious. I'm actually kind of excitedly scared to see what's on my phone when we're done the entirety of today and looking through, and you just laugh, right? When you see the conversations that they have,
I know, I
they
can't imagine.
they just like in our Google Chat and our Kumo, like I'm missing Kumo Space right now because we're here.
Is it do you have an app on your phone to
It's,
or is it
it's not quite the same on your phone. You can only bounce into rooms. You can actually see a visual of the entire office. It's only on desktop, but like it's just,
can you decorate your office?
Oh yeah, 100%. I think that, so like
you can have music playing.
We did it as a beta. We can make a kitchen. Yeah. Nobody uses the kitchen at our place.
What about
I need to go get coffee.
There's cocktail stands, there's pizza slices, you can play chess with other people in the office.
Checkers, you name it, crossword puzzles. It's so cool. It is
really
phenomenal.
neat.
But so like
you
we
would have thought of this during COVID.
You look at this for the
Right?
trades, and you, like an office like Stephanie Allen has out in California, where her operations manager is Jessica, who's out on the East Coast. Now Jessica could be in the office with the CSRs, but from Boston. I think she's in Massachusetts,
in
right?
Massachusetts.
So like the applications for this still apply to the trades, and it allows again you to hire from across the U.S.
Right.
or internationally if you really wanted to expand there for certain aspects of the business.
Right.
I'm intrigued.
I am
We
too.
have got to wrap up because
know,
we
'cause I
have
gotta go.
had some really good conversation. But Leslie,
before you
has
wrap
got
up, do you want to hear about Evan's feedback and then you can wrap up?
Yes. Oh, we've never got there.
So we
Look at
never got
the-
there. We kind of went scrolled. So his big thing was on the messaging, right? So we know as leaders when somebody asks us a question, right, and we're like, it's in the fucking document. Why don't you go look? Or it's right here. Why don't you go look? How stupid are you? And you put that in your brain, right? And so try not to extrapolate that out in your message to somebody because you're behind a keyboard and they read it one way, even though the intentions were different and said differently. And so mine was more about situational, past people getting angry and they could see that, where his is more, okay, well, somebody's asked me a question. It's simple. Why can't you just, like, it's right here. Have you looked? Right? And so instead of phrasing it like, so we have what we have as an onboarding document, right?
Both of these
So
things.
any new client that comes on, it gets like automatic, like 3-page document. They fill in the information. It's called our onboarding document. And so when somebody asks us a question, we say, well, where have you checked or have you looked at the onboarding document? And so phrasing the question in a way when they ask us a question to empower them to find the information out themselves, but not belittling them in roundabout ways. He actually wasn't belittling them. It's just how people internalize things,
You're
right?
being a dick.
Right? No, he wasn't even being that big of a dick. And like same thing with
So
mine
give
not
us
being
an
a dick, right?
example because it's hard in text.
Right.
So what's an example of what he did and what he should have done?
So one of our clients, so he knew something in the onboarding document. So one of the questions we ask is, how long have you been in the trades for? When we should, how long have you been in business for? Because that's important for your Google Business Profile to add that in there. And so he knew that they've been in business since whatever, let's just call it 2010.
They started the business by buying into the business.
Correct.
So like they weren't in the trade before they started the business.
Right. And so he knew that, and the person asked the questions like how long they've been in business. And it's like, well, if you looked in the onboarding document, well, it literally says the thing right there. But the question is phrased as how long have you been in the trades for, right? Not how long have you been in business for. And so the better way to describe, to in my opinion, and what the others were said to me is saying, okay, well, instead of saying, well, have you checked the onboarding document? It's like, hey, that's a phenomenal question. I hear you. Where else have you potentially looked, or have you found that information? Do you need any clarification
That's too
based
much.
off of the information?
That's too much.
It's too much, right?
I'm
But
with
this
Evan.
is
Did you
where
look where you
right,
needed to
and but again,
Well,
we're talking
I
about
do
people,
agree.
right?
I do agree that you do need to just ask the question, like,
Correct.
hey, where have you checked already, right? I should have done that. That would have been better.
What did
I'm not
you
going to
do?
acknowledge their feelings.
Right?
I try to send.
I'm going to an nth degree here for example purposes.
I think
right?
that sometimes, and this isn't even on the same thing, but sometimes what I've noticed though is if you're trying to deliver something in a message that you've had to rewrite a few times,
Yes.
I stop,
Jump in,
go to Loom, and I send a video.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
Because if I've had to rewrite the message 3 times to maybe not hurt your feelings, I'm going to
Yep.
hurt someone's by accident
Right.
because I'm not trying to.
Right.
So I just record it in Loom and send it.
Yep.
And
Well,
that
and
way
at least now they can see the emotion
it's
behind it.
Right.
Like literally when I was recording this, I was like browning the meat for dinner and drinking a vodka and wasn't mad at you at all.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
It
and
was
you
just
can
your
see
quick
that
response,
but
right?
yeah.
But
And
but
so-
that's the thing is you also have to internalize that and saying, okay, who's on the other end of the keyboard? You don't necessarily have to acknowledge and vindicate their feelings, but being aware of somebody reading that message and saying, okay, well,
How else could they interpret
how else
this?
could they
Especially if
interpret
they
this,
don't
right?
know you.
I literally am so. I'm sorry. I just had another epiphany.
much.
Sure. Yeah.
What about this Kumo stuff? Because we struggle with our technicians being alone in the field sometimes
Right.
and
Mhm.
stressed out. Not stressed out, but they're isolated.
Yep.
And I'm almost like, can they have little offices and we can buzz in and they can buzz in, but
Yeah.
it doesn't work on the phone very well.
You could be in
iPad
your
it could work.
No,
Yeah,
that would not work in a film.
No,
Some of my
that's
techs would love it.
It's data. Yeah, I mean, hey, look, beta, right? Like that's what we did in our business. It was like, okay, we used to use something called Time Doctor, where people punch in, punch out. It tracks time. It pulls up like screenshots of when they're doing the work.
I've
and like,
heard of
oh,
some
right?
companies that have a Zoom that's always open on the main
Yeah.
computer, and if
Yeah.
a tech needs something, they just pop into Zoom,
Yeah.
and it's on the main TV. And so
That's not a
someone
bad
in the
idea.
office,
It's not a
someone
bad
in the
idea
office
either.
is like,
Yeah.
"Hey, bud, what's
Instead
up?"
of calling,
Yeah.
I would
and
say-
they pop into Zoom. So then it's like the dispatcher turns around, is like, "Are you good? What's up? What's
Right.
going on?"
I'd be super curious
Oh,
to beta
gosh.
these things, though, right? So I
you
know that
gotta
you've got to
wrap.
go.
I
So
gotta
let's
go.
wrap her up.
So,
Is there anything you guys
anyways,
need
it
to
was
wrap
so.
up?
So I keep kicking you.
That's
I
okay.
think so.
It was so great to have you guys on our podcast and to jump in. I can't believe y'all are in Oklahoma.
I know, it's so crazy.
And
I'm hoping
we've
I
had
get to see you guys tonight. I don't know if I can find a sitter. That's what
Bring the
Bring your
kids.
kids.
the
How old
girls
are
are
your
great.
How old are your kids?
They're fun.
7-Eleven. They left.
Oh
a
yeah,
lot.
bring the kids. Yeah.
And they got and they'll bring their little Zelda. They love Zelda. But we appreciate On Purpose Media
Yeah, this
being
was
our
awesome.
sponsor. We appreciate
glad
you
y'all
guys
came.
like doing, not just talking the talk. We've seen you guys like jump in multiple times with that incident. Stacy went in. You guys like are literally walking the walk. Like you are with us, and we see you guys as a true supporter of not just our podcast, but women in the trades and the future growth of the trades in general. So we are super excited. Make sure to check out On Purpose Media and HVAC Secrets Revealed, Black and Pink podcast. And if you can get one of the hoodies, it's really soft and it's my
Are y'all
favorite.
gonna go to HR?
Yes.
Nope. That will be in
Oh,
Chicago.
I thought you said nope. I was like, what?
No, we'll be in
Oh yeah,
Chicago.
we'll be there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
That's one of those no, but no, yeah.
Yeah. I've never been to Chicago, so I feel like it's got to be an event for sure. But anyways, we appreciate
warm.
you guys.
This has been Power Women of the Trades. Like what you hear so far? Leave us a review at Apple. And make sure to listen to our other episodes wherever you enjoy listening to your podcasts. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you on the next one.